There is a fantastic comic book that's on the shelves right now, and it is published by Marvel Comics, and I'm talking about Moon Knight. True story, this thing is amazing. It is written by Jed MacKay with artwork from Alessandro Cappuccio, but also Federico Vincentini. Those two have been like dovetailing on the comic book, but anyway, this is hella awesome, and I'm here to talk to you about it as spoiler-free as possible, so let's kick it. What is so awesome about this current Moon Knight run? Well, there's a few elements, with the first one being the environment. I love how every single comic book and the entire series, in fact, has just been drenched in darkness. And I'm talking about nighttime. Most of the events happen at nighttime. If there's anything in the daytime, it's usually in a flashback. Sticking to nighttime at all the time just gives it that particular vibe and that tone. It also gives it this kind of like isolation feeling to it, and that, there's danger at every single corner, and it very much sticks in with the theme of Moon Knight. It's spot on, and well done to Jed MacKay for making that decision. And I also feel that it brings the cast a little bit closer, makes them a bit more intimate because of the sense of isolation that the darkness brings about. And it makes the enemies and the villains seem a little bit more sinister because of that too. Speaking of which, the villains, oh hell yeah, the assortment of villains that pop up here are excellent. I think the choice of the villains to the Moon Knight gallery of villains, I mean, we've got Zodiac, Black Spectre, Jigsaw, Waxman, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I've been catching up on this series. I read from about issue 18 through to 25, and I've been sticking to this series the whole time from the very beginning when it came out in 2021, and I haven't been disappointed since. The cadence of the storytelling has been so good, like it's just progressively exciting. There hasn't been a single dull moment, and there has been a great deal of character building, character progression, not just for our main protagonist Moon Knight, but also for the supporting cast. And I'm talking about Tigra, who's in the book here as well. In fact, this particular issue 22, has a nice little spotlight and focus on her. She does get a lot of character growth, and how she adds meaning to Moon Knight's life. It makes it all the more special when they really dive into some of these supporting characters, just brings them to life and makes them more likable. I loved where the story has been heading. We know that Moon Knight is a very formidable hero to go up against, and I find that the bad guys have been doing their very best. You can tell that they're not being too dumb for the most part. They know what they're going up against, and they're throwing every single thing, including the kitchen sink, at Moon Knight. And I love this. It's not every single time that Moon Knight can beat them. They can be a step ahead here and there. So it's not every single battle that he's winning, but he's trying to do his very best to try to win the war. These villains, they're really upping up the ante, and you can feel that, and I think Jed MacKay is doing an excellent job with portraying that, showing that Moon Knight is not an unstoppable force. And therefore, it goes back to the supporting cast once again. He does need assistance from some of these other characters too. They're all pretty likable in their own way as well, and we've got the new appearance of a character being Hunter's Moon. We've got Reese, who is a vampire who joins the gang. She's pretty cool too. We got a guy by the name of Soldier, who's like a ex-Hydra member. There's so many characters here, and they all have something to offer, and I love that. He makes the most of the supporting cast. And on top of that, it really looks like Moon Knight has it together for like the first time in a long time. He's got his 3 different personalities within him, that being Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Jake Lockley, and they all seem to be working in unison, just giving Moon Knight that little bit of edge. It looks like he's on top of his game. But regardless, that the challenges that are being thrown at him are very impressive, and I love to see that. We get to see Moon Knight at his peak, but we also see the villains on top of their game as well. Now, who is this comic book for? Well, you know what? I think if you like some of the darker and more grittier books out there, something like Batman, for instance, with some supernatural elements thrown in there, then I think this is the book for you. The writing is wonderful, like it just really flows. It's not overly saturated with unnecessary dialogue. In fact, it's the right amount that I wish there was almost a little bit more, because now I'm just a little bit more curious about certain characters, what they are thinking. I want to see the relationships develop a little bit more. That's when a book has got you hooked. Jed MacKay has done his job because of that. I will be looking forward to an Omni when this eventually gets one. That is definitely going to be a day one buy for me. Now I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the series is wrapping up at issue 30, which is going to be really sad to see, so we're almost there. But I think there's another series that follows this one straight after. And I also believe that Jed MacKay is still going to be writing it. And if that's the case, oh man, I'm hella excited. I think let's keep Jed MacKay on for as long as we can, because I think there's something special here. And if he can really land it, then I think we've got a really great run for Moon Knight, and one that we're gonna remember for quite some time. I feel like this is one of those books that has been overlooked, and perhaps one of the better Marvel books on the stands right now. Let me know in the comments below if you have read this and what your thoughts on this are. Me, I've loved this. This is probably one of my favorite Marvel books right now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed the video, hit it with a like or a dislike depending on what you thought about it, and I'll hit you up with some more comic book content soon, so take care of yourselves.